Welcome to Skills to Pay Your Bills and the special segment, the WealthZone University. I'm your host, Don Moragne. Welcome back. As you know, our objective is to change your mind about money so you can change your financial future. And over the last couple of months, we've gotten emails that have asked us about businesses raising money. And because that's such a vital topic, I brought you an expert. And where are you going to find an expert? Right here on the WealthZone University. With me today is Lorette Farris. Hi, Lorette.
How are you, Don?
Thank you for showing up on the WealthZone University.
Absolutely.
Lorette, I've known for quite a while. We're business partners and business associates, and I met her in New York when she was on Wall Street. And she meandered down to Maryland just so she could be on my show. No, I'm kidding. And she's an expert in mergers and acquisitions, but she's also an expert in finding money for businesses. So Lorette, introduce our audience to the wonderfulness of Lorette Farris, and then we're going to talk about your company in a second.
So thank you, Don. The wonderfulness of Lorette Farris incorporates financial services for almost 20 years now. I worked on Wall Street, but I started my financial service career doing insurance. I mainly focused on disability insurance for small business owners, and that's what led me to doing equity financial services. I became the director of compliance for a brokerage firm, small broker-dealer, which then turned into president and CEO of the next broker-dealer. We had about 300 employees, 7 offices, and we did everything from IPOs, secondary offerings, private placements. We mainly worked with smaller companies doing raises between the $7 and $10 million range. So it wasn't the big raises you're used to on Wall Street. So I cut my teeth in working with small businesses in various financial services. I then moved into business brokerage, which then translated into mergers and acquisitions. I bought one of my clients. I ran that for 5 years, and now I transitioned out of that, and I'm back to helping companies raise capital.
Fantastic. So, like I said, we have an expert here. And you have a business called iBOSS.
Yes.
Tell us what iBOSS means and tell us what your business does.
So iBOSS stands for the back office systems and services. The I stands for internet. Almost everything that we do is virtual, online, easily accessible for the client. iBOSS' purpose is to provide back office services for small business enterprises, and those back office services are specifically in the financial services arena. So we provide the hands, the experience, and the strategies for small businesses to walk through financial vehicles that otherwise they wouldn't be able to do because they don't have the same resources as your larger companies.
And so essentially you facilitate financial transactions for companies and you help them either lessen the learning curve or not even go through the learning curve at all. Obviously, the compliance and the paperwork that goes along with this is monumental and voluminous, but also the relationships that the client has to build in order to begin this process is something that you also help them with?
Absolutely. From the different vehicles that you can do, so if you're doing, for instance, an acquisition strategy, well, yes, we can assist the company in understanding how to do a strategy if they chose to do it themselves.
Okay, before acquisition strategy is a company trying to acquire another company.
So we do mergers and acquisitions. Okay. So if you want to buy a business, then we can help you to develop a strategy to acquire.
There we go.
And so those acquisition strategies can be worked for whether it's a startup company, a new entrepreneur. You hear people go to buy a franchise. Well, it doesn't only have to be a franchise. You can buy an existing business. You have entrepreneurs who may have dings on their credit. Their business may not be profitable enough, so they can't get a loan from the bank. But if you put together an acquisition strategy, you can get financing for that, because now all of a sudden you've brought an asset into play. And if you're going to do it that way, you look at how you can reduce costs so that you can show the lender that you will be able to service the debt. And you did that all from this acquisition strategy.
Fantastic.
So our services are there to assist that young startup new company how to understand these strategies. But if they don't have the people or the want to do it, we stand ready to actually execute for them. We just happen to believe that them understanding the process is the biggest impediment for small businesses raising capital.
Okay. So, but you said young companies, so it's not always young companies, it's any company that thinks that they can benefit from an expansion through acquisition, merger, or relationship, or any company that may think that they're in a position that they want to sell their company to someone else. So it doesn't have to be young, but when you speak about young, you're talking about people who may not know the whole capital acquisition process.
That's exactly right. When I use the phrase startup, I'm truly talking about an entrepreneur who's just stepping in.
Okay.
But when I say a young company, a company could be in business for 5 years. I would still consider them young if they are, let's say, still in the $100,000 to $500,000 revenue producing range, or if they haven't stepped out of the small niche in order to enter a bigger arena. To me, that's a young company, because yes, they may not understand yet what they can do and how they can do to expand that business. So they're young in respect to, if they went to look for an investor is going to look at where the company is, and there's not enough to move them forward.
So young as opposed to seasoned.
Yes.
So I want to get to the money part of it, but before I do, I want the audience to understand that we're talking about what we're talking about is applicable to just about everyone, because if you're brand new and you can't get traditional financing, that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
But you could be seasoned and looking to expand.
Yes.
You could be seasoned and looking to go into a new market. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the brand new startup. It could be any company at any point in time with the need to have capital.
That's exactly right. Whether you're a large enterprise and you have a new product you want to put out there, most of the time you're going to need capital to do that. You have a new service. Again, you decided you want to grow by acquisition and not organically. Organic meaning growing by your own sales. So whether you are a $100 million company or whether you're a $100,000 company, these same strategies work. iBOSS comes to the table because your smaller, younger businesses just don't have financial services to work with them in these spaces.
Right.
Your bigger companies, your more seasoned companies, your better capitalized companies, they have all kinds of resources.
Sure, because they can afford it.
They can afford it. But your young, and again, that's why we like to educate, because again, that young company may have fantastic ideas. Their company could be really positioned to move, but if they don't know how to access the capital that's available, and when I say access to capital, just a little segue, I'm truly not talking about loans, which generally is what you understand if someone says access to capital. I'm saying small business owners, young business owners, seasoned and experienced, need to understand more than just what it takes to qualify for a loan. They need to understand what it takes to qualify for an equity investment. And with today's new capital market, and new capital market being with the Jobs Act that has opened up, and I know you'll ask me about that. It has really opened up the space that companies need to understand the rules and regulations that have been made available for them to access this capital.
So still concentrating on iBOSS, the seasoned or the young companies don't know about the process because the experts that are out there, they can't afford to pay these people.
Right.
So iBOSS actually steps in, becomes the expert at obviously a reasonable price, and they can then either learn from iBOSS or work with iBOSS or step back and let iBOSS do it.
Right.
Whatever they
Yes.
choose.
Yes. There are 3 ways that we will engage with a client. And again, the first one is education. And now education goes from, we're working on quite a few webinars and the whole educational platform. And it transcends into, we have a sales and marketing program that will help a business to grow its actual sales. So that's focusing on their market.
Okay.
And then we go into we do 5-week 12-person advisory groups. Within those advisory groups, you get an opportunity to sit with 11 other business owners. They operate as your sort of built-in advisory board.
Okay, yes.
Okay? But you're working on, if we're doing a merger and acquisition training, you're learning exactly what you need to do, and now you have others around you who can give you input on what it is that you're setting out. So that's the educational piece, and that stays in a cost base that those young new companies can work with. But then the next level is to retain iBOSS on an outsourced basis where we're your back office. So all the processes you need to go to, for instance, if you're looking to sell your business. So for an exit strategy, that means you have to find those potential buyers for your business. Well, there's a process to go through to find qualified buyers. So in these programs, you can, I'm sorry, I was going back to the advisory group.
Please, yeah.
But as outsourced, we will physically do all of that searching for you to identify.
And will you also make sure that the company is in a position to be looked at from an outside company, the financials, the performance, et cetera?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things we do is business development, and business development in the sense of helping you to develop all of your collateral to be investor friendly.
Investor friendly.
Okay.
That's important.
Yeah, and there's a difference if you're going for a loan versus investment, what they want to see in your documentation. So yes, we work through taking more. But the third way that we can engage.
We're going to take a break for a minute, but because I want to get into the money. Because we need to get into the money. And so what we've tried to tell you is everyone out there has a reason to be involved with iBOSS. But when we come back, we're going to tell you the good stuff about getting the money. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Lorette is revved up. She already mentioned the Jobs Act. So we're going to have a good bit to talk about when we come back. See you in a second. Hi, everyone. The objective of the WealthZone University is to change your mind about money so that you can change your financial future. Hi, I'm your host. In the WealthZone University segments, my guests and I talk about a wide variety of business, financial, and other worldly topics. We are seeking to both educate and entertain you. We emphasize, though, that the information and discussions that we have on the WealthZone University are my opinions, perspectives, and ideas, and those of our guests. We in no way intend to deliver or provide financial, tax, or business advice. You should consult with your accounting, financial, insurance, and legal advisors regarding the impact, application, and pertinence of any topic or opinion that we share in the WealthZone University. Thank you for being a part of our audience, and please continue to communicate with us through email and Twitter, because this is your show. Thanks. Welcome back. We're going to jump right into our subject, the Jobs Act.
Yes.
Jump-starting our businesses. Startup. Oh, yeah, right.
It's always difficult to remember what the acronym stands for. And for the longest time, so many people really didn't relate the Jobs Act to capital. And that's really what it's all about. The Jobs Act of 2012 is one of the legislations that really surprised a lot of people, that everyone came together and voted, and it passed without big issue. However, what did run into being an issue was the SEC and the individual states. The Jobs Act passed in April of 2012. The first passage of it via the SEC didn't then happen until the end of 2013.
So is it safe to say the overall intent of the Jobs Act was to make it easier for businesses to access capital?
Correct.
In that Jobs Act, everyone's heard about crowdfunding. Lorette's going to talk more about it, but it gave legitimacy to crowdfunding.
Yes.
So can you kind of weave that tapestry for me?
Sure.
Crowdfunding, what is it? Why did the Jobs Act make it easier? And how do these people watching, how do they get crowdfunding?
Okay.
Go.
So crowdfunding has been around, it has always been around.
And what is it?
It just didn't have a name.
Right.
Crowdfunding is an opportunity for anyone to donate money to a particular cause, company, project, whatever the case may be. So again, that's been done all the time. Think about in your churches when they send around for a building fund. That's individuals donating to a project.
That's
to
crowdfunding?
happen. That's crowdfunding.
They actually take stuff out of the basket.
No, it goes in. Oh, yeah, it goes in the basket.
Gosh, okay.
And so what what has happened in the investment arena is a disparaging concept that individuals cannot invest on their own if they didn't make a certain amount of money. And so the way that most investments are set up, accredited investors can invest in anything, but if you make under such and such a dollar, a small business can't offer you to invest in their company because you're under that number. So crowdfunding is changing the rules that say anyone can invest up to a certain dollar amount.
Well, see, that brings me two questions. One, I thought crowdfunding was an internet phenomenon.
I'm getting there.
And two, wasn't the restrictions to protect people who weren't really knowledgeable about it?
So the premise of the security regulations is that they are protecting the public.
Okay.
But the problem in protecting the public is if you have $2 million, any opportunity you saw out there, you can invest in it. But if I make only $100,000, then I don't make enough money to then invest. And that's where it's really just not fair. But the second side is that's what also gets in the way of small businesses oftentimes being able to reach the investment dollars, because if only the accredited investors are able to invest and they're only picking companies of certain sizes, then all of a sudden that whole land of small businesses that need some of this investment capital can't get it.
They're not on
So the Jobs Act felt that by changing the barrier for people to invest, it would also change the barrier for small companies to receive investment capital. The Jobs Act has not been fully enacted yet, though. So the rules and regulations that are being spoken of have not passed yet. So the part that people can still do is crowdfunding on a donation base. What's still going through the SEC, the regulatory world, is people being able to invest under crowdfunding into equity investments where they're actually getting a return.
Oh, that's important. So crowdfunding, I can do crowdfunding, but I'm not getting any equity. I'm donating, or so at the end of it, I don't have any issues.
That's correct.
I don't have any rights. Anything.
That's correct.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so right now, crowdfunding is donation-based. We are waiting for the SEC to pass the equity-based crowdfunding. Okay?
Thank you.
But crowdfunding became such a big buzzword within the Jobs Act, and I believe it's just been a lot of confusion, because the biggest part that has passed in the Jobs Act has to do with private placements. Private placements is where we were trying to get with this, because that's where businesses can really go out there to raise money. Private placements, you may have heard the term Regulation D. Regulation D, private placements, the biggest one, there are 3 of them, 504, 5, and 6, but I'll focus on 506. About 96%.
So 504, 5, and 6 are sections underneath the regulation.
That is
Tell us,
correct.
what is Regulation D?
Okay, so Regulation D is really an exemption.
Okay.
It states at the end of the day that a small business, they call them small issuers, can become their own investment banker.
And they don't have to register with SEC and follow those regulations.
And they don't have to register.
Okay.
Exactly.
And so actually...
So this exemption lets you become your own investment banker. So
Okay.
now you don't have to go to a financial company to raise capital for you. You can do it yourself. But
Good.
you need to understand the regulations and the compliance that allows you to do
Right.
that.
And we know how complex that can be.
Very complex.
So they make it easy for you, but in order to understand it, you have to go through this
Exactly.
crazy.
And there's a lot of barriers that they place for people to help you. And so one of the things that iBOSS has done is put together a small issuer's back office service that we will walk you through every one of these, the regulatory concerns you need to know and do in order for you to raise the capital that they say you can yourself.
Oh, that's excellent. So I don't need to be a Reg D expert. I don't need to know 504, 506, and 505.
Those, correct.
Those guys, because iBOSS knows them.
Right.
They can either educate me so that I'm familiar with them,
Right.
educate me so that I know them well, or take over and just handle it so that I comply with them.
Exactly.
Tell me
And
more.
so that back office system, what we did was set it up where, again, we'll do all the training. Not only do we train the company, but any service provider that is going to assist the company, we do the compliance training. Because what the company doesn't want is a service provider to step in, do something that is contrary to the regulation, because it's still the company that's on the line. What do I mean by that? A company could hire someone to do some marketing for them. Well, you need to make sure whoever's doing that marketing know what they can say and what they can't say. What line can they not cross in order to impact your offering? And so that's what we do. We ensure that all parties understand compliance, but we take it a step further. Our back office is a turnkey system that if a small issuer wants to use our back office system to raise capital, all of the professional services, we already have them in the background. So you want to raise money, we have the SEC attorneys. You want to raise money, we have the CFOs that can step in to do what needs to be done there. We have the human resource personnel. We have the companies that do the marketing. We have the promotional companies. We have the web developers. So you get to build what you want to do via your budget, but we have the service providers who are already ready to assist the company in doing that.
So I've got this great idea for the next big, whatever it's going to be. I need production money. I come to you. I don't really need to know anything else because I come to iBOSS. I said, I've got this idea. Here's my plan. You've got everything inside that can help me to realize that or help me get in a position to realize that.
Correct. Again, there is an exemption that tells you that you can go operate like an investment banker yourself. It's not so now it's not only the regulation you need to understand, so putting together what's called a private placement memorandum, putting together your documents and all the rest of that is wonderful, but how do you really now get that out the door, sold, the money in order for you to move on and do what you need to do? Well, again, the learning curve to find out, I ran compliance. I ran, there was trading and operations, all the rest of that. a company coming in doesn't necessarily understand all those pieces. So for them to be able to step into a system that says, if you want to raise money, you need this, you have to have that, you need that, and then for the services to be right there is just instrumental for those companies.
And so vital,
Yeah.
because for most companies, young or seasoned, the whole focus is making sure that I do everything that I have to do just to be able to ask somebody for some money.
Right.
And you know, I haven't even identified who I'm going to ask yet. It's all of these things that I've got to do.
Yeah.
And I can come to iBOSS and not have to worry about any of that and just say, hey, I need to raise under $1 million. Is there a limit for a small issuer?
So let me go through those 3 regulations I told you. If you did a Reg D 504, that's $1 million every 12 months you could raise. If you did a Reg D...
Every 12 months?
Every 12 months.
Okay, I like that.
Every 12 months. If you did a Reg D 505, $5 million every 12 months. And if you do a Reg D 506, it's unlimited.
Unlimited.
Every 12 months.
Every 12 months. I've been in the wrong business for the last 30 years. So, first of all, I'm going to go talk to Lorette because I've got ideas. And second of all, it's so nice to know that you've got all of the resources under your organization that I'm going to need in order to get to where I need to be. So essentially, you make sure that if I work with you, that I can get to where I need to be.
Yes.
And so the ideal client for you is what kind of client?
The ideal client is the company that's been in business for 2-3 years. So because they have, they understand what they don't know. They understand the resources they truly need. They've been kicked around a little bit. And now they understand, so they're ready to get to the next place. But outside of a length of time, it is that entrepreneur that really has the not only the passion, but the realistic understanding of what it takes to get there. Because at the end of the day, every and anything a company is doing to raise capital has to be a compelling enough story that an investor that has money is going to say, they have what I think I'm willing to put my money behind.
Well, you know, I've got a compelling story, so I'm going to talk to Lorette. You think about your compelling stories, contact iBOSS, contact us. The most important thing is that there is money out there for small businesses, and iBOSS can help us get. Lorette, thank you very much for coming and hanging with us. Will you come visit us again?
Absolutely,
and,
anytime.
Every 12 months?
Every 12 days.
Thank you. See you soon.